Hello, everyone. How are you today? Today, we're going to cover a fantastical topic of how to create a thumbnail and the psychology behind creating a thumbnail. And I think that as a business owner, when you're growing your personal brand, the more you get into, I'd say, the game or the arena of personal branding, knowing how to create a thumbnail is important. For a lot of my clients, it starts with the LinkedIn newsletters. You're going to have to create a thumbnail for each newsletter. Then it goes into live events. You're going to have to create a thumbnail for the live event. Then, as my clients evolve, they may be repurposing their LinkedIn live events, as we do, into long form YouTube videos. And then again, you'll need a thumbnail. Email marketing, you'll need a thumbnail. Ebooks, it's just, a different version of a thumbnail. So there's so many situations and scenarios where you're going to need and know how to do this. Okay, so we're just going to teach you today. I have Jonathan here with me. He's an AI expert, especially if you're not someone that's a tech genius like myself. I'm definitely not a tech genius. I roll with things like Canva and very, very basic tools. So I'm happy to have you here today, Jonathan, if you want to shortly and briefly introduce yourself before we start.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Jonathan Green. I'm the best-selling author of ChatGPT Profits, and I'm passionate about using AI to do things that are fun. So every time I create a thumbnail, every time I create an image, my goal is to be interesting to myself. I want to enjoy the process. So this isn't about being technical. This is about upping your game while enjoying the process. So I'm really excited to talk about this stuff today.
And that's so key because if you're going to create a thumbnail and the first time you do it, the fifth time you do it, the 10th time you do it, you absolutely hate the process and you have nobody to delegate it to yet because you need to increase the profitability of your business before doing that, then it's not going to feel good. You're not going to want to do it and you may just give up. So what I like about, having Jonathan do some of these trainings with me is that he teaches it in a way that's fun and that really helps someone who is a business owner that may not have 10 hours to invest into a thumbnail. So let's start, Jonathan. I'm going to bring up your screen here. And then whenever I have questions, I'll ask you on behalf of the audience and let's do it. I'm excited.
So when I'm thinking about thumbnails, I'm often thinking about stopping and getting someone to click. That's the core thing I want to happen is someone to go, wait, that's interesting. What is that? I want to see more. And one of my tests is I love to create images that I can show my kids and they're not sure if it's real or not. So this is an image I show my kids and I said, before I met your mom, this was my last job. And they're not 100% sure if I'm joking or not. And that's the area I like to be in where I'm having a good time. Because you guys as adults probably know I've never encountered a dinosaur, but it's a fun place to be and it's in that realm of entertainment. So when it comes to thumbnails, attention beats content. This praying mantis is so engaging and interesting. It's looking you right in the eyes. It's these bright colors that it's more important because it doesn't matter if your video or your newsletter or your book is good if nobody clicks and looks at it. The inside doesn't matter. The thumbnail is 90% of the game on YouTube because it doesn't, people aren't clicking, then no, they're never going to find out the content's good. They don't actually find out. And this is the same rule for social media posts, LinkedIn newsletters, Instagram images. We want to stand out from the crowd enough that people go, well, that's interesting. I want to find out more. And this is going to give you the ability to compete with larger channels that have huge budgets. We don't need that anymore. Now we know from our last live stream how to create really cool images and images of ourselves. Now we're going to figure out how to use those images to capture that attention and start to get more clicks and more traffic and just grow our business and grow our personal brand. So there are 5 steps to this
Wait,
process.
Jonathan, I want to add something there because I was not a believer in this. You hear people say all the time, oh, the thumbnail matters so much to YouTube. And as someone on LinkedIn that is heavily does live videos and just does short form, I doubted the power of the thumbnail. So I'm just going to share based on data that we've collected. It could literally be the same thumbnail. This is how fascinating human nature is. It could be the same thumbnail. We could change the color from red to blue. not only will, or blue to red, depending on the video. So you're just changing the color. You're not changing the video. You're not changing the title. You're not changing the design, nothing. Just the color. It more people will click on it, and then the people that click on it will watch the video like 50% more and will engage more. It's fascinating to me how just one color change on one thumbnail could lead to that big of a difference, and how that is just a reflection of how fascinating humans are. So if you don't believe this, trust me, we like, I know Jonathan has the data. We also have the data, and I had to actually see the data to believe how important it was, because I didn't believe it.
Yeah, when I started doing this and I heard, oh, you have to make 4 versions of every thumbnail and split test, I said, that's crazy. That won't make a difference. And when I started running tests, there's one thumbnail will get you twice as many or 3 times as many people, even with a small change. So that's why we want a process that's quick and easy so that it doesn't take me 2 hours to make each thumbnail. It takes me just a couple of minutes. And that's what our process is going to be about, which is there's 5 steps. Time allocation. How much time do you spend on creating the thumbnail versus creating the content? What's that ratio? Psychology, scroll stoppers, the 3 C's of design, analytics, and variations. Now, I realize that's 6 steps. So time allocation is not really a step. It's just a planning. It's deciding how much effort you're going to put into the other 5 steps. So let's talk about how much time you should put in. What most of us do, and I think we're all guilty of this, is we write the newsletter and they go, oh, I need an image at the top. What should I throw at the top of this? I just made a YouTube video. I want to publish it now. I need to create a thumbnail as quick as possible because I feel like the work is done.
Guilty as charged.
I'm describing myself. This is exactly what I was guilty of doing until I started really thinking about this, is that I've worked so hard and the end point feels like when the video's done. So then you don't have that motivation. But if you start thinking about the thumbnail earlier, you'll get a much better result. And you should finalize thumbnails for future videos. So even making a thumbnail before you make the video can be really powerful. Really big creators, the creators with channels that have millions and tens of millions of followers, they will spend weeks on a thumbnail and budgets up to 10, 20, up to $50,000 on their thumbnail. So they're spending really big money because they know it's that important. And that's why competing with them really requires AI as a tool. But I want us to first think about that we want to move it earlier in the process so that we don't kind of last minute or phone it in, because it will really make a difference in your results. The first thing we want to talk about is the curiosity gap. And the curiosity gap is where you go, you look at a picture and you go, I want to know what's happening. So here we have this amazing image of a woman turning a Tesla into a pickup truck, and you have the bright grinder, or she's cutting the car, and you want to know more. The curiosity gap is the space between what we know. I know what a pickup truck is, and I know what a Tesla is. I don't know how you turn one into the other. That's that space in between. Same thing with the Pencil Pro. Is I know what an iPad is, I know what a pencil is. What makes a Pencil Pro? And that's why Pro even has the quotes around it, because that's the important thing. We've heard about, maybe you've already heard of iPad or Apple Pencil, but you haven't heard of Pro. So it's that little space in between where we want more information. We want to understand what's missing. And that's the key. If I already know how the video is going to end, if I see a picture of someone standing next to a car and going, I love this car, I already know the review. There's no curiosity there. So we want to give people something where they go, what? I want to know more. I want to know what's happening. I understand where they're starting from, but what's the rest of it? So this is how we create the curiosity gap. And there's a couple of ways to do this. The first is with a moment thumbnail. This is where you capture a decisive reaction or a facial expression that suggests high emotion or tension. And we see a lot of these where the face has a like angry or really happy or really excited. Over exaggerated expressions are very common more common on YouTube than LinkedIn, but
Yeah,
they're
for sure.
catch our attention. And the other way is to catch a pivotal moment, right? Like someone standing on stage, or they're climbing a rock wall and it looks like they're about to fall, and it piques that curiosity. Or every time we see a picture of a man in an airport on one knee standing in front of a woman, we know he's proposing and we want to know what happens, right? It's like, is she going to say yes or no? If she has a really shocked expression on her face or an angry expression, that's going to get a lot of clicks because I really want to know. And with these, sometimes you'll see visual cues like arrows or circles. So they tell you where to look. So the arrow will point right to the pencil or right to the person's face. And important step is to keep the background uncluttered. You don't want it to be too busy. So here we have 3 examples. The first 2 are from the same creator who always does the same thing. He'll talk to someone in perfect Chinese and they're surprised. He does it every single time, and you can see it in his video titles. Clueless American tourist busts out perfect Chinese, shocks locals. White guy orders Chinese at drive-through, but when he pulls up, ... That creates curiosity. And the second one, he fills in by saying, I thought you were Chinese. So we already know that's not him speaking, it's the other person speaking. And our bottom image, the car is the only thing in the background, that really nice blue car. I bought you this car. It's capturing that moment. How many of those thumbnails have you seen, Shanae, where it's like someone giving something to a homeless person, or
Yeah.
Mr. Beast did tons of these, right? Like, I gave $5 million to this people, or I cured 1,000 people's blindness, which is great. And he's capturing that exact moment where you've done something really nice. Like, we've kind of created this era of public charity,
Hmm.
and that's this type of thing. You go, I want to see what happens, right? We all want to see 1,000 people get cured of blindness. Who wouldn't want to see that? That sounds amazing. So that's what a moment thumbnail is. The next type of thumbnail is the story. These often include a visual teaser that says, here's what's going to happen. So in our top image, we know this, he's taking a train from Florida to Alaska, but he has a small bag. Heck, he can't have warm clothes and cold clothes. That's not enough bag for such a long trip. Is there even a train that goes that far? We have all these thoughts, but it covers a lot of it. So maps are very common in here, and there will be characters or symbols that show the challenge or what's happening. And the 2 Eddie Burback videos at the bottom, where he goes to every single Margaritaville in the country
Oh my
in a row,
gosh.
every Rainforest Cafe. He looks like you would think you'd look if you ate at 18 Rainforest Cafes in 21 days. Like, he
Yeah.
looks devastated. And sometimes you add a little bit of text. What's interesting with the 2 videos from Eddie Burback is that on one of them, he says 18 locations in 21 days. And the second one, he doesn't have that information. So he put less text. He doesn't have that 1 star. So he found that less is working better. And I'm sure he tested a lot of versions of the thumbnail because he's a big creator.
Hmm.
And
I've never
the,
even heard of them. I'm learning about new creators right now.
yeah, so he's the type of creator that puts out 1 video a month, and it's a really long narrative. And to spend a month just going to every single chain restaurant of a certain chain just to make 1 video, that's dedication.
Hmm.
So you can see from he's got the facial expression, we have the map, we know what's going to happen. And we also know that he's probably not going to end happy because it sounds exhausting. So we want to make sure that the image of the thumbnail aligns with our central message, which is, I'm going on a trip. So the guy at the top looks happier, and at the bottom, he looks like worn out, because how many times can you eat from the short menu? So these are story thumbnails. The next is results, which is what happened when I finished. So this is the final outcome, because
Hmm.
people want to see similar results. And this is often with a before and after comparison to show, like, my before I had muscles, now I have muscles. And there's a lot of times numbers. So at the top, we see a roller coaster, which says 1898 and today. I'm really interested in this. Why are loops not circles anymore on roller coasters? So just from this 1 image, I think about this a lot. The second one is from Mike Shake, who just learned skills. His videos are always, I learned a new skill. And I learned all it says is 167 skills, and it has this really brightly colored knife, and it's spinning around his hand. I'm not even sure if this is real image or AI generated because it pops so well. And then our bottom one has a number on it. We often see this with financial videos or anything that has to do with business. $10,000 a month, $100,000 a month, or I spent $1 million on this. So we'll sometimes see percentages or money. Those do really, really well. There's a reason every single video shows a number per month, right, on the
Hmm.
thumbnail. So we want to give away a little bit of information. So from our bottom thumbnail, we know that he's making money and it's using his computer, but we don't know
Hmm.
anything else. And very interesting in his title is that he added, do this to make $10,000 a month as a student. So in his title, he's added who it's for, a little bit of targeting. So all of these are interesting. Don't you want to watch all 3 of these videos to see what happens? Transformation can be a little bit more specific. If we want to show before and after, here's Mr. Who's the Boss when he lost some weight. This can show a significant change, like a makeover, a DIY project. I watch a lot of home light videos, like doing my home LED lights and all of those things. And that's the type of thumbnail I often see. It shows the progress or the journey, the before and after. There's strong visual elements. The colors are a really big part of it. If you look at Mr. Who's the Boss, you can tell he used two different cameras to take the two photos. The photo on the left is really out of focus, and the background has been fuzzed. The lighting is really weird. He has a different hair. He hasn't done his hair. There's no product in his hair. He's not smiling. In the second picture, so much effort. And this is standard for before and after pictures, right? You suck in, you have perfect lighting, you spend a ton of time doing your hair, making everything perfect. And that just enhances the journey. Even though he probably didn't, it looks like he only lost 10 pounds, but he really makes it look amazing because of the photo and the green arrow. In the bottom, we have Dr. Mike responding. So this is a reaction. And notice that he's using different colors. He doesn't use the green. So he has red, yellow, and blue. His shirt is blue because he always wears the Dr. Mike shirt that's blue. Doctor reacts, and then weight loss. So he's on top of it, and he got 3.7 million views, almost half as many views as the main video by adding in these elements. So the facial expression on Dr. Mike is really powerful. Look at that. You're going, wait, he doesn't,
Yeah.
something going on here. Maybe he doesn't believe it. Maybe he does. He doesn't give it away. This is a very, very good expression because you don't know what he believes, but you're like, he looks suspicious. And like, well, I want to find out. Does he believe in this? Does he not believe in it? Is he suspicious about what happened? Dr. Mike loves to call out other doctors or people that give bad health advice or health advice he disagrees with. So it's very interesting. So these pull us in. So we have one celebrity face expression, and then we have another face on top of it when Dr. Mike makes himself bigger and he outlines himself in a white line to push himself forward so that we know this is the Dr. Mike video, not the Mr. Who's the Boss video. You know whose video it is. Now the novelty thumbnail, which Mr. Beast is the expert of. This is where you display something unique or unexpected, sparking the curiosity. And this is where you'll see things saying, I tested the band UI products. I bought every single Nintendo system ever made. I bought every X. I rode every X. We've seen tons of those videos. I've done everything and it's a pile of stuff, or I ate everything. Mr. Beast, here he's in front of these exploding barrels. Or here he has a picture of a kid age 1 to 100, decide who wins the $250,000. But if you just look at the thumbnail, there's a lot happening. Everyone is pointing with angry fingers at the little baby, even though the baby was obviously added in
That's
post.
crazy. Yeah.
It still works. And he's in a different color jumpsuit. And you go, well, I've never seen that before. I've never seen people point angrily at a 1-year-old baby. So I want to know more. This is where you use props, costumes, or graphics for a distinctive visual. This is where AI really shines. I actually wonder, I was looking at the Mr. Beast thumbnail in the middle, how much of this is AI, if the barrels are completely AI generated there. So this is something I could easily create, and it's very doable. So we're in a very cool space to see even big creators are starting to use AI more and more. You're going to do different elements, and the idea here is just to be eye-catching. So there's a lot of bright colors. You see a lot of red, a lot of contrast. And sometimes there's expressions on the faces to create a sense of wonder or intrigue. I know that Mr. Beast actually tests several different facial expressions. So he'll be sitting there in the chair and do 10 different versions of his smile because he wants to calibrate enough to know that he's in danger, but not enough that kids will get scared. So he's doing something very specific with his facial expression. Same thing with the bottom one. The reason he's got such a big smile is it diffuses the tension. If you didn't have him on the picture, you'd be like, it would just look like a really mean picture of everyone mad at a baby. But he's reversing that with his facial expression. So it's a little advanced, but that's how he creates a novelty. But he creates tension, but also lets you know, okay, they're not really going to hurt the baby. So you don't have to be scared, but you still want to see it.
And I love the baby's facial expression, like "bring it on."
Yeah,
with
the
the,
baby's
with
ready
the
to win.
pacifier.
Yeah. So the next type of technique or element to our thumbnails is scroll stoppers. And this is where you create a pattern interrupt. And here's types of scroll stoppers: familiar faces, large round numbers, picture of money, risque images, motion or danger, emotion, bright colors, or things that are beautiful. So our top image, we have the episode of Pawn Stars where Taylor Swift went shopping, and they even add in her name with an arrow pointing to her because I couldn't tell from this picture that's who that was. I wouldn't have known right away. Obviously her fans, of course, all the Swifties would have known, but it adds to that element. The below, what do we have? A giant pile of money, and then we just have numbers, $1 million. So these are familiar faces, large round numbers, and money. And the bottom, we have danger. It takes a second to realize that there's a giant shark underneath the water. Once you see that, you can't look away. So these are types of things that makes people stop and go, wait, what's happening there? So these are things we then add on top for our next layer once we've decided what type of thumbnail we're going to create. So do you have any questions about this part? Because I want to make sure I cover
No,
everything.
I like the one thing that I like is I see a lot on some people's thumbnails is like day number 10. So
Yeah,
kind of, it's like, whoa, this is going to last a long time, or what's going to happen on day 11. And then I think that for some channels, the fear factor, right? Because nobody wants to be under that shark mouth. And then again, it's like, what's going to happen? Um, and you start thinking like I'll never go into the ocean again.
exactly. So we're creating emotions, we're catching attention, and that's what we want is for someone to stop scrolling and go, wait, what's happening? Now, the next and important thing is two elements. The thumbnail needs to be obvious and easy to process. So I work with a lot of authors designing their first book cover, and I always explain it this way. I say someone should be able to look at your cover and know the genre of your book immediately. If you have a cover that looks like a horror novel, but it's actually a romance novel, you're gonna not sell to romance readers and then disappoint all the horror people who buy the book and go, this isn't a horror book, it's the wrong genre. So you kind of capture the wrong audience. So it's very important that it's obvious, which means less is more, and then easy to process, which is people can figure it out in 1 second. So if it's a complicated image or you have to explain it or people have to get it, that can be a big problem. One of the ways to test this is to put the image on your phone, show it to someone for 1 second, and say, what did you see?
Hmm.
This is a test a lot of big creators use. That's the 1 second test. And if the
Yeah.
person goes, I'm not sure, then you know you have a problem. Or if they're confused. So, for example, if I see a picture of a book and there's a cat next to a cake and there's a giant knife in the cake, I know it's a cozy mystery. If I see a noose and it's a blank background, I know it's going to be like a police thriller, serial killer type book. So the covers actually follow genre aesthetics. And in the same way, we want to make sure that it's very quick. People can go, I know what type of video this is because people will go past. If people have to do too much thinking or if people get confused, the biggest way to kill a business is to confuse your audience. People will never forgive you for confusing them because they go, I'm confused. Oh, you're making me feel dumb. Now I hate you because I'm not dumb. That's the progress process that can happen. So we want to make sure we keep it obvious and easy for people to process. So let's dive into the 3 C's. Number one is contents. So you want to have one key feature or clear central object or key visual element. You want to use familiar, recognizable figures to connect with the audience quickly. You want to ensure the visual content aligns with the core message or theme. So if your thumbnail is really good, but it looks like it goes with a different video, it's going to just kill your watch time. It will work, but then not work. And the background should be uncluttered and highlight the main focus. So even this image here, there's some really good elements, but I think the background is too busy. And I love the red headset. I love he's got the red shirt. It's pointing to the island, but then I have no idea what this video would be about.
Hmm.
So you need a really good subject to know what's happening. And this is a copy of a Mr. Beast
Yeah, I
cover.
was gonna say, I think like a big factor is like what videos it's gonna be shown with and like what people will compare it to in their mind. And when YouTube shows me these types of videos, all I think about is like, oh, this is like someone who's trying to copy Mr. Beast, so I don't click, right? Um,
Exactly.
yeah.
If the person, if you're not famous, then your face won't boost the clicks. So this is non-famous person. That's why I chose this. And there's so many questions. Why are there 2 gold boats? Why are there 3 gold cars? Why are the cars too big? Car is not almost as big as a yacht. Why are there 2 helicopters and he's in a third helicopter? So there are some issues with this, but the color is really good. It's really bright. It does catch your attention for a second. So it's a scroll stopper that doesn't generate the click. The next thing is composition. You may recognize these. This is very common in the mukbang genre, like where people just eat a huge amount of food for 3 hours. I don't watch those videos, but I know they exist. This is where you'll use leading lines and framing to guide the viewer's eye towards the focal point. So if we look at all of the lines on this, look at the line on the French fries, even the arrow for the In-N-Out shirt he's wearing is pointing towards his face. If you look at the lines on the top of the buildings, both lines at the top of the roof point towards the side of his head. Every line is pointing towards him. If you take a line through the onion rings goes to his face. So we want to create lines that point towards the star so people know where they should look. If you're not sure, another way to do this is to use the rule of thirds. So you place subjects strategically, and basically you create 9 rectangles from
Hmm.
the image that are equal sized, and you want to be in the 1/3 above the person, and then they're in the top, then the 2/3 below that. So the other element is to balance symmetry. So the person should be the middle, or from the one side, there should be balance on the other side. And you don't want to put important stuff too far to the edge of the frame because it'll get cut off on different browsers or different devices and things can get lost. But the important thing is that it's clear who the star of the show is. We know what I'm supposed to look at in the image. I know I look at this image. I'm not supposed to look at the clouds. I'm not supposed to look at the buildings. They're just a background. I'm supposed to look at him. Contrast is where we use elements like contrasting colors, bright and dark colors. We use hue, saturation, brightness to create views and visual distinction. If everything is a bright color, if it's a bright yellow shirt in front of a bright purple background with a bright blue above it, then I don't know where to look. So
Hmm.
we can use light and dark to show who the star of the show is and where I should be looking. And you want to differentiate your text color from the background. So if he has this white solo 7 text and he's wearing a white shirt, it'd be harder to read. We never want things to be hard. And we can use light and dark and different colors to separate the different elements. So he has a really bright background, and then he's actually darker than the background, but his face is well lit. And the less important things, all the soldiers to the sides for whichever game he's playing, those are all in darkness so that we know he's the star of the show. The next step in our process is to actually analyze and test and see what happens. So I mentioned this before. The first is the clarity test, which is can you make out your thumbnail in the sidebar without squinting? One of the most common places we see when we're watching a video on YouTube, it will show those videos on the side.
Hmm.
If I can't tell what the video is about when it's small, then you have a problem. Some thumbnails will look really great big, but then small, you can't tell. This image is an example of this. You can't tell what this image is. It's a
Yeah.
steampunk microscope, but takes too long to figure it out.
Oh,
It
it
takes
looked like a time machine or something.
exactly. That's why I chose this image because it's really interesting. It makes you look at it and you go, I don't know what it is. And if it takes 5 seconds or 6 seconds to figure it out, that's too long. The second thing is a contrast test. What you can do is grab a screenshot, like you mentioned, of
Hmm.
who your competitors are or the keyword you want to appear for, and you can just put your image on top of that page and see if it stands out or catches attention. And you can actually do some reverse things here. If everyone has really busy and brightly colored ones, and you could be the one image that's really desolate or really dark or something different, so it stands out by being the opposite. It's not about being the brightest, it's about being the opposite of what everyone else is doing. So in your thumbnail might not work on its own, but it could work really well actually on YouTube or actually on LinkedIn around the competition. And then the glance test is where you show someone the thumbnail for 1 second and say, what did you see? This is a really good test because 1 second is how long most people spend judging. So the analysis part's really important. I've created a lot of thumbnails that I really liked that did not work. So even
Yeah.
though I know stuff and work on it, the audience gets a vote. It's a democracy. So I don't know exactly what people are going to do. This is why you make multiple versions and different ideas for every thumbnail because sometimes red works, sometimes blue works. And I don't know until I post the image.
I think that's a really important point, Jonathan, because I feel like when like a lot of experts when they're at a certain status, they have a certain reputation, they lean towards being very on the safe side of their thumbnails. Like they just want a picture of them in some suit and then very plain text. And they make a lot of assumptions like this is the professional thumbnail that I know that my audience will like and click on, but you don't really know that until you test because you may, unless you test like a colorful thumbnail or a fantastical thumbnail and you see if they clicked on it more, you won't know. And sometimes you'd be very, very surprised. Like, I mean, this thumbnail analytics stuff, when I look at it, I'm surprised over and over and over again.
Very rarely when I make 4 thumbnails is the winner the one I expected.
Same.
Very, very rarely. I'm very rarely know what people are going to respond to. It's really hard to guess that. And that's a really good point you brought up, which is that you can have a winner last week and go, oh, I'll just keep reusing the same style as that. What happens? It stops working after a while. People start to get bored. This is why even Mr. Beast, with his massive budget, he'll make 40 thumbnails for every one of his videos. We don't realize that because we see just one version ourselves, but he will sometimes change the thumbnail every 10 or 20 minutes because he has so much traffic. And he can tell if it's performing or not and go, I love that one, but it's not working. Bring the next one. And the first one is always the one he thought would be the winner.
Right.
So the fact to change it, same thing for me. Whenever I create my variation set, the first one is, of course, the one I thought would win. So you want to create at least 3 variations. And one of the ways to do this is to draw in your notebook like 15 concepts. So you don't have to actually make the thumbnail, but you write down 15 different ideas. You pick the 3 different winners. So they could be really different or they can be very similar, but I will go in a lot of different directions. Sometimes I'm in the thumbnail, sometimes I'm not. Sometimes the thumbnail has text, sometimes it doesn't. There's a lot of popular thumbnails right now with no text on them, as I've shown you. You pick the 3 winners, and I use a software that runs a split test automatically, and I'll either have it change the image every hour for 3 days, or I'll just have it change it every day for 2 weeks. And it picks the winners, and it's always a surprise. But anytime you have a group of thumbnails, you're going to get a better final result because you're picking the best from a group as opposed to one either works or doesn't. So that puts the odds in your favor. And this is a really important part of the process. And when I first heard that, I got really stressed out because I was like, first I have to do a photo shoot and go on location and do all that hard work. Now I have to do 4 different ideas and 4 different photo shoots or 4 different poses. So doing it all with AI really lowered my stress level and has allowed me to compete in this area by the ability to have an idea, create the image very, very quickly. So that allows you to shorten how difficult this part of the process originally felt like for me.
And this is really important because, again, as someone that was kind of discounting that stuff, I've seen how a color change, a font change, in a different photo of myself in a different color shirt, whatever, could take someone from clicking on a thumbnail like 3% to 9%, or just increase it 3%. And that sounds small, but you do that across 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 videos. And that's a lot more people that are getting the chance to, have an appetizer of your content. Now, of course, the content will determine the watch time and all of that. But it's just fascinating to me how one small change could bring 3% more people. And that compounds.
I've had different thumbnails double the watch time, double the number of clicks,
Same.
make huge differences. So it really is important. And that's why I wanted this to be a process that doesn't feel overwhelming. That's why we talk about the AI image generation first rather than doing this first, so that we already know, oh, I can make a thumbnail in 15 minutes. I know how to create a bunch of different photo shoots, so I can test my ideas quickly. So let's just review what we learned, which is the summary. First of all, you want to give people a reason to click on the image. It should be obvious to see and easy to understand what the image is about, what the genre or topic is, or what they're going to get, and it should pass the tests. Those are the 3 most important things.
I love it. And whether you're on LinkedIn or YouTube, just remember, LinkedIn is serving people all the time. If they go to your profile, they'll be like, oh, here's suggested live events. If people are like looking at your live event, deciding whether they're going to go. I mean, I can't even tell you the type of thumbnails I see on LinkedIn. There's like 50 dates on it. The font is super small. There's like no clear, host, or the host is like this small in a circle on the banner. The colors it's illegible, especially on mobile. So what you're doing is you're just making it easy for the right people to find you. And I think that as a business owner, the more you get into your personal brand, into attracting the right people, it naturally becomes your responsibility to do so. If not, they may go to somebody else that won't serve them as well. And, you kind of missed out on your duty and responsibility in that moment. So I know you have like a deeper workshop, Jonathan. I'll put the link to that in the description. What will they learn in that workshop?
So in that longer workshop, we go into how to use AI art to grow your business, to find more customers, to get more traffic, to do all the really cool things that make a difference. So it takes what we talked about here and goes into, I don't want to use myself. I'm going to use AI generated characters. All of that stuff is completely covered. And it's really going to walk you through that core idea of how can I use AI art to accelerate my business. And LinkedIn is a great place to talk about because it's the low hanging fruit. YouTube, it's a competitive, right? Really, there's a lot of good thumbnails. Most of the images I see on LinkedIn, I can't tell what they're about. It's a picture of a networking event that it looks like no one's having a good time, or it's a picture where it's so busy. I can never tell what the topic of the live event is. I'm glad you mentioned that. I'll see that in my feed. I'll say, oh, someone I know is hosting a live event. I can't tell who those is. There's like 10 pictures that are all really small and it has all the different time zones on it. But LinkedIn, when you register for an event, it shows you the right time zone. It automatically does that. I don't need that information. So a larger thumbnail that lets me know, very easy to understand, I'm more likely to stop on. And I would love if more of my feed was easier to see, was aesthetically pleasing, was interesting. So the more people that do this, the more that I can enjoy my time on LinkedIn. So I win as a creator and as someone who consumes a lot of content.
Yeah, and I'm looking for, hold on, for a split test here to kind of show, because I still am like so surprised with some of these results. 1 second. Hold on. And even changing like the title is also kind of crazy.
So when I run a split test, sometimes I just test different thumbnails and sometimes I'll test the thumbnail and the title.
Hmm.
We, when you're creating, it's so easy to make assumptions like, oh, everyone's gonna know what I'm talking about. But sometimes you're wrong. And what you really want is to get the people who don't know, this is amazing.
Yeah, look, it doubled. And this is like a terrible thumbnail, by the way, right? But just changing the title, right? Doubled. And then more people watched, which is just like almost double the time just by changing just the title, which is insane to me. The other one here is, look at this one. So this is a big difference. This is just a color change. And there's almost 4% more people clicking just by changing the color. But when we look
Well,
at other ones, like you were saying, Jonathan, for some videos, they want the blue. So, you can't just say, oh, the rest of my channel needs to be red, because we kind of did that mistake. And then you start realizing, no, actually, for some topics, the blue will win and blow it out of the park. But it's just fascinating to me for those of you that are like, yeah, it could kind of make a difference. Well, just look at the difference, right? Just by changing the color.
well, it's even bigger than that because if you think about instead of 1 out of 100 people watching it, now you're getting four. That's 4 times more people watching the video. So sometimes you look at percentages, it doesn't seem like a 4% boost. That's 4x. How
Yeah.
many would like to make 4 times more money, have 4 times more customers, have 4 times more visitors to your website, have 4 times more people watch your videos? That's such a significant difference that I wish they showed it a different way because that's a huge jump that
I know.
looks small the way they're showing the data, but 4x is a game changer for most of us. Even if you're only getting, oh, I get 1 customer a month, 4 times more customers. Now you're getting a customer a week. That's a huge jump. So that's really exciting. I love that you shared that. That's so cool.
Yeah, and there's like, I mean, we do have, like you said, yes, you have to invest a little bit more time, but we do it for everyone. And then, we learn, and the team learns. And if you don't have a team, again, even just changing the color, the title, it doesn't take that much. But that 3%, 4% difference compounds, especially if you're doing a lot of videos and putting them out there. So, where can they learn about this workshop, Jonathan? I mean, I'm going to put the link in the comments and stuff, but like, where do they go? Do they just DM you or what?
You just click the link and it'll take you right to the registration page. You pick a time that's right for you. And I'm going to break down how to use AR to grow your business, how to get started, the right tools to use. We're not using expensive tools. We're using tools that are free or $10 a month. You don't need to have a huge budget. You can get started. How to create your first image, how to create a star if you don't want to be the star of your thumbnails, how to create a consistent character, and even how to create pro level designs. All of that's covered in the workshop. I run at different times, so just click the link,
Yeah, I'm
which
gonna
will
put it in now.
below the video, and grab a time that works for you. Come to the workshop. It's absolutely free. It's a ton of really good training. I am going to answer a ton of questions live, do a bunch of demos, and show you all the different things that are really possible so that you can compete with these really big brands in other parts of your business. Like I've been split testing different thumbnails just for my link profile image. It's been making a huge difference. I've noticed a huge difference in the number of people that see the profile and then click on it. So other parts of your business that can really get a big boost, we cover all of that stuff.
Yeah, and I'm adding it to the description now, and hold on. But I think again, if you're not there yet in your journey, just know that it may feel overwhelming now, but doing your first video feels overwhelming, then doing your first live feels overwhelming. But the more that you do these things, it's just like going from starting to swim to varsity to pro or whatever to Olympics. You just know how to handle the pressure, and you just may not be at that level in your journey yet, but just know that all the short form videos that you're doing, or the fact that you're starting video, is getting you closer to one day being able to do long form videos consistently, almost as if it were second nature, because it becomes like you learn the skill. It becomes a habit, becomes part of who you are and the responsibility that you have in your business. And I don't know if you want to just give some words of insight there, Jonathan, because some people may look at this and be like, I'd love to do long videos one day or this or that where I need thumbnails, but it just feels overwhelming now because I'm just starting.
So I'm really glad you brought that up. There's two things. I know I covered a lot of stuff here. You don't have to do all of it on your first thumbnail.
Right.
You can just do small things and just do, okay, I'm just going to do one thing. I'm just going to try light and dark colors. I'm just going to see if that makes a difference. Light foreground, dark background. Just start with that and then add in one more. And then maybe try a curiosity gap or adding a scroll stopper. I don't do every single thing, all the psychology stuff for every single thumbnail. I'm still improving and getting better. I just have a process. So don't feel that need. Your goal is not to create the perfect thumbnail your first time. It's to just create a thumbnail. And then the next day you go, I'm going to try and create one that's a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better. That's how you get really, really good. It's that journey. We often hear people say overnight success. And it's like, yeah, if you don't count the first 5 years, people say, oh, Mr. Beast is an overnight success. If you don't count the first 10 years, yeah, like
Yeah, exactly.
success. If you don't count the 5 years before anyone heard of her. And that's very important. That's why I don't like that phrase, because it makes us discount the effort that went beforehand. So then we compare ourselves to someone's on stage to our backstage. So don't hold yourself to that standard. And the second thing is that these really make a difference. This is the process I use for creating my LinkedIn newsletter, which has been growing, growing, growing by creating better thumbnails. I'll run a split test on YouTube, and then whatever the winner is, that becomes the headline on the LinkedIn newsletter. But even if you're not doing that yet, creating a better newsletter image, creating a better profile photo. I would love to know how many people watching this video right now, your profile photo is more than 3 years old on LinkedIn. Like if you
Mine.
look like you anymore. Yeah, same thing. Until you told me to change it, I was using a really old image too. So we are super guilty of this. So yeah, I'm always trying different images and trying different things. So even with my newsletter, I'm split testing. Every one of these images is me testing different ideas, different colors to see what works. And some are big winners and some are not. And then I change the image out.
And do you find that you being in the thumbnail is a winning thing?
Yes, most of the time for LinkedIn, it really makes a difference because that's how I create my branding. So I want them to know if they just read a newsletter and they don't see me, then they're not going to remember who it was. So the only exception is the one I put out yesterday, which is a picture of you.
Yeah.
But it's exact same thing. But I got a lot of comments. I actually got 5 or 6 DMs. People go, I love that picture of Shanae. She looks amazing.
I know. I
So
actually showed it to someone in person, and the first question they said was like, "How did you do that?" And I was like, "Oh, my client's like this expert in AI stuff," but they thought it was so cool, and it got their attention. And the main thing here is like the perception, right? Of obviously you may say, okay, Jonathan's in the AI space, this makes sense. But there's so many ways to do this with the AI tools, like, you know, the one we talked about in the last training, and I'm sure ones you talk about in your workshop. But you can make it even less fantastical, more realistic, but it just up levels the authority that you have when you have like these professional images, or you have images that just pop and stand out, and it makes a difference, you know. That's what I've seen.
Yeah, you can calibrate it to your personality. If you see these images, if you saw the image, you go, Jonathan probably made that. Because if there's an exploding helicopter, it's almost always me. I love putting those in the background. Like that's part of my branding because I just like it. It's not because it's not always for my audience. I want to enjoy my thumbnails as well. I'm having fun, but you can have a personality. Like we showed in the last workshop where you can put different outfits. So I was testing different suits and tuxedos. So I was trying Armani tuxedo, Dolce & Gabbana tuxedo versus Versace tuxedo. I was testing out different images to do the header in my emails because I'm changing that image out. And I'm calibrating. My old image is a picture of me as a cyborg with a glowing blue eye. Now I have a picture of me in a blue tuxedo. I already got an email. Someone goes, I missed the old image. So my branding is kind of fantastical. So I'm calibrating that, but it's not about copying what I do. It's about taking these techniques to match your personality. If you're funnier, you can do really funny pictures. If you like to be a little more serious, you can be really serious. And you can just have a picture of you in a tuxedo or in an evening gown, standing on a yacht or standing on top of a mountain. So it's still a little bit fantastical, like a fantastical location, but it matches your personality. So find things that you enjoy, and that's going to make this process easier. Like, I don't want this to feel like more work. I
Mhm.
like generating images. Like when I'm generating images of you and one comes out good, I got really excited about the thumbnail yesterday. So it wasn't work. I was
Right.
having fun and I'm I was like, I just want it to look enough. Like I can't always tell what people look like. So it's like sometimes I look at an image, I go, oh, that doesn't look enough like me. So I was like, I hope it looks enough like you. That was my one thought because
Yeah.
sometimes I can't tell because I have issues with my eyes. That's one of my limitations. But I was like, this is so cool. The uniform came out really cool.
Yeah, I
It's
like it.
almost it was almost close enough that people go, wait, is that a real picture? Like it was
Yeah, I
just
know.
right on the
The person that, you know, and this person knows me in person, they're like, how'd they do that to your picture? And I'm like, that's not my picture, but it's pretty cool, right?
yeah.
But yeah, this is great. And again, the potential to play with these tools and to even be able to now create these images without having a whole marketing team or design team or Adobe expert on your team is it's democratizing your ability to compete on a bigger level. So I'm glad that you came, Jonathan, and I'll also link the previous workshop that we did. I know we referenced it a few times. Go watch that one. Go to Jonathan's workshop. The link is in the chat. I'll add it to the description. Anything else, Jonathan?
Yeah. These tools are fun. They're not expensive. They allow you to compete with much larger brands, and you're going to notice a bump right away. So you can create the AI image character, which we show in the other workshop, how to make it that looks like you. It's completely free. And there's some really cool things coming down the pipeline. The CEO of that company saw our video and he emailed me
I
the same thing.
know. He didn't email me, but I saw that he tagged their Twitter page, tagged us, and was like, go watch the YouTube video. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah. So that's really exciting. And I was like, I love your tool. I can't believe it's free. So guys, make sure you watch that video. Make sure you follow both of us on LinkedIn and on YouTube. We're putting out a lot of content. And the core lesson is that you can enjoy the process. So you can actually have fun and grow your business.
I love it. Thank you, everyone. God bless you, and we'll see you next time. Ciao.